The first sign wasn't ships or signals, or any of the ways we'd imagined first contact. It was the silence. All across Earth, animals stopped making noise. Every dog, every bird, every cricket fell quiet at exactly the same moment, as if they sensed something our human senses couldn't detect. I was at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico when it happened. My name is Dr. James Chen, and I'm the one who first detected what we would later call the shadow. The readings came in at 0300 hours, a massive object decelerating from near-light speed at the edge of our solar system. "Are you seeing this?" my colleague Dr. Sarah Patel called from her station. "The mass readings are off the charts." I crossed to her terminal, coffee forgotten in my hand. The object was bigger than anything we'd ever detected, larger than most moons. But that wasn't what made my blood run cold. It was the way it moved. "That's impossible," I muttered, watching the trajectory plot. Nothing that big can maneuver like that. The object was changing direction in ways that defied physics, bleeding off velocity without any visible means of propulsion. As we watched, it shifted course again, settling into an orbit around Pluto. "We need to alert the ISC," Sarah said, already reaching for the secure phone. The International Space Council had protocols for potential alien contact, though I doubted anyone had anticipated something like this. Before she could dial, every screen in the observatory went dark. Then they came back on, displaying the same message: run. The word appeared in every language, in every alphabet, a universal warning. My phone buzzed, a message from an old colleague at SETI. "Are you getting this? Every radio telescope on Earth is picking up transmissions. Thousands of them, all different species, all saying the same thing. They're warning us." I looked back at the main screen, where the object was already starting to move again. This time, it was heading toward Neptune. "What could be so terrible that multiple alien civilizations would break silence just to warn us?" Sarah whispered. The answer came 3 hours later, when our instruments detected something new. Smaller objects breaking away from the main mass, hundreds of them, then thousands, each about the size of a small car. "They're accelerating," I noted, watching the readings, spreading out in a search pattern. "Search pattern?" Sarah looked up from her calculations. "You mean—" "They're hunting," I confirmed. "Whatever this thing is, it's not just a ship or a creature, it's a predator, and it's looking for something." My phone buzzed again. The message made my heart stop. The International Space Station just went dark. All communications ceased mid-transmission. Last message from Commander Rodriguez. "Something is attacking the station, some kind of organic ship. Oh God, it's opening." Sarah and I stared at each other as the implications sank in. We weren't just facing first contact with an alien species. We were facing something that hunted other species, something so terrifying that the rest of the galaxy had broken their silence to warn us, and it had just taken out our only crude presence in space. The screens flickered again, showing new data. The smaller objects had reached Neptune's orbit. They were moving faster now, more purposefully, like sharks that had caught a scent. "How long?" Sarah asked quietly. I ran the calculations, though I already knew the answer. At their current speed, they'll reach Earth in 72 hours. 3 days. We had 3 days to prepare for an encounter with something that had the entire galaxy terrified. 3 days to figure out how to fight a predator that could maneuver impossible ships and take out our space station without effort. 3 days to prevent humanity from becoming just another prey species. The Pentagon's Global Defense Chamber was already packed when I arrived. Military leaders from 24 nations sat around the massive circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display showing the approaching threat. General Zhao of China was speaking. "The smaller objects have increased speed again. New arrival estimate is 58 hours. "What about the ISS survivors?" someone asked. Admiral Chen from NASA shook his head. "No survivors found. The station it's just gone. Not destroyed, gone, as if something consumed it." I stepped forward, clearing my throat. "That matches the new data we're receiving from the warning signals. The alien transmissions have been decoded. They're calling this thing the World Eater." The room fell silent. On the main display, thousands of red dots continued their inexorable approach toward Earth. According to the translations, I continued, this entity has destroyed 12 civilizations in the last millennium alone. It doesn't just kill, it consumes technology, biomass, everything. Then it uses those resources to create more hunter ships. Those smaller objects? General Zhao pointed at the display. Yes, they're like antibodies in a massive organism. They identify threats, neutralize them, and process them into new hunter ships. The ISS wasn't destroyed, it was converted. President Harris of the United States stood up. What are our options? Nuclear weapons are ineffective, Admiral Chen reported. The Japanese just attempted to hit one of the advanced scouts with a tactical nuke. The explosion was absorbed. The hunter ship just got bigger. I pulled up the latest data from Arecibo. The warning signals mention only one successful defense. A species called the Zarketh managed to drive it away 300 years ago. They used something called harmonic resonance. Care to explain that in English, Doctor? Harris asked. They found its frequency, like finding the right note to shatter a wine glass. But the scale would have to be enormous, and we'd need to find the exact resonance. How did the Zarketh figure it out? I hesitated. They didn't. They sacrificed 8 billion of their people learning through trial and error. We don't have that kind of time. The room erupted in arguments and suggestions. Nuclear barrages, electromagnetic pulses, even a proposal to evacuate Earth's leadership to underground bunkers. None of it would work against something that could consume matter and energy itself. Then Sarah burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. The animals, she gasped. That's why they went quiet. They can hear it. Every head turned toward her. I understood first. The silence, I said. Every animal on Earth reacted simultaneously when it entered the solar system. They must be sensitive to whatever frequency it operates on. Exactly, Sarah nodded. We've been analyzing recording devices from zoos, wildlife preserves, even pet monitoring systems. There's a pattern. Every animal is responding to a specific subsonic frequency. President Harris leaned forward. Can we use that? Maybe, Sarah replied, but we'd need to build something massive, something that could generate enough power to create a planetary-scale resonance field. How massive? Sarah pulled up her calculations. We'd need to convert every major power plant on Earth to generate the frequency, and we'd need perfect synchronization. One mistake, and we'd just be giving it more energy to consume. General Zhao stood. China offers all its resources, every power plant, every facility. One by one, other leaders made similar pledges. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth was uniting against a common threat. How long to make the modifications? Harris asked. With global cooperation? Maybe 48 hours, Sarah estimated. The hunter ships will be here in 58, I reminded them. That leaves us 10 hours to test and deploy, or become the 13th civilization they've consumed, Admiral Chen added grimly. As the leaders began coordinating the global effort, I studied the display showing the approaching swarm. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, moving with perfect coordination, like a school of predatory fish. We had one chance to find the right frequency, one chance to replicate what had taken the Zarketh billions of lives to discover. And if we failed, humanity would become just another resource for the world eater to consume. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. Every power plant on Earth underwent emergency modifications. Nuclear reactors, hydroelectric dams, solar farms, all were being converted to generate the specific subsonic frequency we'd detected. I hadn't slept in 2 days, surviving on coffee and adrenaline as I coordinated with engineering teams worldwide from the Pentagon's command center. The hunter ships were now past Mars, their swarm growing as they consumed satellites and space debris. Beijing power grid conversion complete, reported General Zhao's aide. European Union facilities synchronized, came another update. Sarah burst in, clutching her tablet. James, we have a problem. Look at this. She showed me new readings from our monitoring stations. The hunter ships had changed formation, creating a complex geometric pattern that seemed to ripple with energy. They're adapting, I realized. They can sense what we're trying to do. Worse, Sarah pointed to another data set. They're generating their own frequency. If we activate our defense system now, the frequencies would interact, I finished, either canceling each other out or creating a resonance cascade that could tear the planet apart. I grabbed the secure phone, dialing the emergency conference line. All stations halt conversion immediately. I repeat, halt all power plant modifications. But it was too late. The Asian power grid had already begun its test sequence. We watched in horror as the hunter ships responded, their formation tightening into a perfect sphere. "Energy spike," someone shouted. "They're accelerating." The swarm was now moving faster than anything we'd ever tracked, covering the distance from Mars to Earth in minutes rather than hours. But instead of attacking, they took up positions in a complex orbital pattern. Then the World Eater itself appeared, emerging from behind Jupiter, where it had been hidden from our sensors. It was massive, a writhing mass of organic technology that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "My God," Sarah whispered. The creature began to change shape, extending massive tendrils toward Earth's atmosphere. But rather than attacking, it began to emit a signal, a complex pattern of frequencies that made every electronic device on Earth screech with feedback. And then we understood. It wasn't just hunting. It was trying to communicate. "The frequencies," Sarah said suddenly, "they're not weapons, they're language. A language made of pure energy." I stared at the readouts, seeing them with new eyes. The patterns weren't random. They were structured, like sentences made of sound and power. "Can we respond?" President Harris asked, having joined us in the command center. "Maybe," I said, "if we recalibrate the power grid to match their linguistic patterns instead of trying to generate a weapon." "Do it," Harris ordered. "Every facility, full power." The next few minutes were tense as we reprogrammed the global power network. When we finally activated the system, Earth itself seemed to hum with energy. The World Eater's response was immediate. Its tendrils began weaving patterns of light in the sky, visible from every point on Earth. "It's beautiful," Sarah murmured, then gasped as her tablet began translating the patterns. The message appeared on every screen in the command center. "At last, after 12 failed tests, we have found a species capable of understanding." The command center erupted in confusion. Tests? What did it mean by tests? More patterns appeared in the sky as the World Eater continued its transmission. "We are the architects. We seed the galaxy with life, then test each species' ability to unite and evolve. Those who fail become part of us, their knowledge preserved. Those who succeed join the galactic community." "The warnings," Sarah said suddenly. "The other species weren't trying to help us. They were trying to force us to unite." I checked the original transmissions with new understanding. The panic and fear in those messages had pushed every nation on Earth to work together, achieving in days what might have taken decades otherwise. "This is the true test," the World Eater continued. "Not victory through force, but understanding through cooperation. You have succeeded where 12 others failed." President Harris stepped forward. "And what happens now?" The hunter ships began to change formation again, creating what looked like a massive gateway in Earth's orbit. Through it, we could see other ships approaching, vessels of clearly different designs and origins. "Now you join the others who passed the test, the Zhertak, the Myriad, the builders of bridges between stars. Now you learn the truth of your place in the galaxy." The new ships entered orbit, and our communication systems lit up with greetings in thousands of languages. The species we thought had been destroyed were very much alive, having passed this same test centuries or millennia ago. "What about the International Space Station?" Admiral Chen demanded. "Our astronauts?" A smaller ship detached from the World Eater's mass, heading toward Earth. As it entered the atmosphere, we received a new transmission from Commander Rodriguez of the ISS. "Sorry for the deception," her message read. "They needed to test how we'd react to loss. The entire crew is fine. We've spent the last 3 days learning about what comes next. You're not going to believe what they have to show us." Sarah grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with excitement. "James, do you realize what this means? We're not just making first contact with one alien species. We're being welcomed into an entire galactic community." The World Eater's final message filled the sky. Welcome, children of Earth. Your isolation is over. Your real journey begins now. As the sun rose over the Pentagon, I watched ships from a dozen alien species begin their descent toward designated landing zones around the globe. The World Eater had never been a predator. It was a teacher, testing each new species it found for the capacity to overcome fear and division. And humanity had passed the test. "Dr. Chen," President Harris called out, "we'll need you and Dr. Patel to head up our first contact team." "Think you're up for it?" I looked at Sarah, saw the same mix of exhaustion and exhilaration on her face that I felt. "Yes," I replied. "I think we're ready for whatever comes next." Above us, the morning sky filled with lights as humanity prepared to take its first steps into a much larger universe. We had faced our greatest fear and found understanding instead of conflict. Now we would learn what it truly meant to be part of the galactic community. The Predator had turned out to be a guide, and our last stand had become our first step forward. 6 months after first contact, I stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council's main station, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath us. The massive structure had been constructed in Earth orbit by the combined efforts of 12 different species, each contributing their unique technologies and knowledge. Sarah joined me at the window, her new translator implant glowing softly behind her ear. "The Zhertak delegates are ready for our presentation," she said. I nodded, still amazed at how quickly humanity had adapted to our new reality. The World Eater, or the Architect as we now knew it, had transformed our understanding of the universe in ways we were still processing. "Did you finish analyzing the data from their historical archives?" I asked as we walked toward the council chamber. "Yes," she replied, excitement clear in her voice. "The architects have been guiding species to enlightenment for over 50 million years. Each test is different, tailored to the specific psychology of the species being evaluated. Ours was about overcoming fear and division. And the others? The Zhertak had to solve an ecological crisis. The myriad faced a test of cultural preservation. Each challenge revealed something fundamental about the species being tested." We entered the council chamber, where representatives from 15 different civilizations waited. Some were humanoid, others completely alien in form. All had passed their own versions of the architect's test. Commander Rodriguez was there too, now serving as Earth's chief liaison to the Galactic Council. She smiled as we took our seats. "Today's topic," she announced, "is the integration of human quantum theory with Zhertak phase technology. Dr. Chen, you have the floor." As I stood to present, I couldn't help but marvel at how far we'd come. 6 months ago, we thought we were facing extinction. Now, we were contributing to discussions that would shape the future of multiple civilizations. The architects' true purpose had become clear. They weren't testing species for survival, but for readiness. Readiness to join a community that spanned galaxies and transcended individual limitations. "The combination of human theoretical models with Zhertak practical applications," I began, "suggests a new approach to faster-than-light travel, one that could reduce energy consumption by 47% while increasing safety parameters." My presentation continued, but part of my mind wandered to the message we'd received that morning from the architects. Another species had been discovered, and soon they would face their own test. Would they see the architects as predators, as we had? Would they find their way to understanding? Later, as Sarah and I headed to the station's residential section, we stopped to watch a group of human children playing with young aliens in the recreational area. They were using technology to translate their different forms of communication, learning and growing together. "Sometimes I wonder," Sarah said softly, "what would have happened if we'd succeeded in our original plan? If we'd found the right frequency and attacked the architects?" "They probably would have let us," I replied, "and then shown us what we'd missed once we'd exhausted ourselves fighting an imaginary enemy. The greatest predator was our own fear," she mused, "and our greatest strength was overcoming it," I added. Above us, through the station's transparent ceiling, we could see the architect ship that had tested us, now serving as a hub for interstellar communication and transport. It no longer seemed threatening, just another example of how appearances could deceive. Humanity had faced its test, and emerged stronger, wiser, and ready for its next great adventure. We weren't prey, we weren't predators, we were students, and the galaxy was our classroom.